Warning, the Dub Talk podcast may contain language and content that could not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Also, there is the possibility that we may spoil any anime series at any given time. So please use caution in case you are listening if there is a series that you haven't finished yet. And finally, the opinions expressed belong to those of the individual participants, and they do not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Hello, one and all, and welcome to Dub Talk, the podcast where on any normal day, we sit down and discuss the latest and greatest in English dubs. I'm Stephanie, and today's episode is, once again, a little bit different. If you didn't listen to our previous interviews, back in November, a few of us attended AnimeNYC. One of the biggest things we got to do at the con was we were given the opportunity to be part of group interviews with some of the guests. This is the third and final of the three that you'll get to listen to today. Join Andrew and Megan as they rep Dub Talk, along with folks from Pop Culture Bento, Toonami Faithful, and the Cartoon Cipher, as we sit down with one heck of a vocal magician. You know him as the voice of Yukiatsu from Anohana, Fyodor from Bungo Stray Dogs, and Bruno Bucciarati from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. That's right, we're talking to the one and only Ray Chase. Special thanks to AnimeNYC for allowing us the opportunity to chat with Ray. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. This has been Stephanie, and until next time, otaku on, my friends.
Good morning, Mr. Chase.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Doing all right, yeah.
All right. First question's one I enjoy asking a lot of actors and directors, but there's a lot of interesting directions that are given to people when it comes to voice acting. Do you have a particular memorable direction that was ever given to you while recording in the booth?
Yes, I have there's a director for Fallout games named Phil Bach, and he directs in Smurfs. So if he says, I'm going to need half a Smurf more, you just do it. And the reason why he does Smurfs is because Smurf means something to everybody, and so he just says, you fill in the blank. It's just kind of a, hey, less Smurf on that one, and then the actor knows what you mean. It's just they can kind of fill in their own blank, give themselves their own direction, sort of thing. I love that. It was really fun.
A lot of fans describe you as a voice chameleon, that you're able to, jump from voices like Noctis to Piccolo and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
I try.
How does it feel? What does it take to kind of bring that kind of range out of you? Is it something you always practiced even when you were younger?
Absolutely, yeah. I did something called forensics back in high school, which was competitive speech and debate. And there was an event in that called humorous interpretation, dramatic interpretation, where you take a script and you play all the parts yourselves, and you'd have to switch back and forth in between each character and just do an entire play like that. And in order to be successful in that, you had to have a lot of range to differentiate the characters, since we'd be playing 20 people at a time. So that's something I've been doing since high school, is trying to disguise my voice in a lot of different ways. And I'm glad that casting directors allow me to, which is not everyone always gets that, the ability to play so many different types of roles.
So I want to bust out the JoJo question. So the voice of Bruno Bucciarati, best mom, if you will.
Yes.
So how did it feel to play one of the main protags of a JoJo series? I know you've done JoJo characters before, like
Correct.
Rubber Soul, but what did you do to get in character for Bruno?
It was a trip. I was when I did Rubber Soul and Donovan and Loggins and all those other guys. I hadn't watched the show. And so I was like, I'm going to actually sit down and watch it. And I did not stop watching it. Loved it. Watched all the way through the end of part 5. And then the auditions came out. And I was like, I don't know. I think I already play characters. I already play a stand user. I don't know if they'll ever let me audition for this. And I'm really glad that they did. Getting into character was interesting because I have a tendency to sound too much like Matt Mercer, who already is Jotaro. So we just wanted to make sure that he didn't sound like Jotaro.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We kind of went based off of the audition that I sent. I sent 3 auditions because I really wanted it bad. Yeah.
Bouncing off of that,
we'll go in order just to make it easy on everyone.
Okay. Well, bouncing off of what they said, how do you feel about when you audition for characters that might have already had an English presence over in the West, like with Evangelion.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you auditioned for that, everyone auditioned for that. Were you given specific direction to emulate a particular performance, or did they more or less let you do your own take on the character?
Yeah, they wanted a completely whatever you brought to it. I know the audition process was kind of weird for that, because I think the previous VAs wanted to audition for their part 2, so we were all just sent completely blind. They had all of our auditions in, and Gynax just chose us based on not knowing anybody's name or anything like that. So it was just a complete clean slate. They didn't know who we were, they didn't know what we sounded like, and they liked me. It was my buddy JP also auditioned for Gendo, and it was between me and him for Gendo and Fuyutsuki. And so I think they went back and forth on who they wanted for what, and then they ended up with me for Gendo, which is great. Best anime mom to best anime dad.
Oh, I was mostly just going to go off of the JoJo thing.
For sure.
Going through the dub recently, it's been very interesting. I believe the localization for that seems very interesting because there's a lot of Italian thrown into it.
Yeah, that's
As it
right.
turns out, it is indeed a show that takes place in Italy.
Yeah, I'm glad they went there. I think it adds a nice little flavor to it.
Have you been having a lot of fun learning a lot of new Italian terminology and phrases for playing Bruno?
Yeah, he doesn't say too much, just familia and stuff. All the bad guys say like "cazzo di detta" and all that stuff. So I haven't had the chance to say too much yet, but I do like it. I am Italian, half Italian. Family's my mom's maiden name is Chiego, so it was cool to bring that little bit my heritage into a role like that.
If I can ask, switching from Italian to Russian, you played Dostoevsky in Book of Stray Dogs, a character that, especially among all the other characters, has a very thick accent.
Mm-hmm.
What was the process going through that?
That was wild. I mean, when we came in, that was based on Max's recommendation. He was working at a studio, and they were like, Susie, the director, was like, I don't know who I'm going to bring in for this. And Max said, just bring in Ray. He'll come up with something. So they brought me in, and his name is Fyodor Dostoevsky. He should have a Russian accent. So we recorded once, but I know anime is pretty testy about accents a lot of the time, so we also recorded one without. And then it came out on Crunchyroll, and they chose the accent one. So when it came time for season 3, we got to commit to it, which I'm really glad.
Is there a lot of difference between working, doing dubbing for a video game studio as opposed to an anime studio? Like, how different is that day-to-day process like for Square Enix?
It's very different depending on who you're working for. Even within, yeah, you're right, like Square, even different business divisions of Square, like Kingdom Hearts recording process is way different than Final Fantasy recording process, which is way different from Deus Ex recording process. The basic change is that with anime, you're looking at the finished product. You see what the finished product looks like. You can you can do your performance to the lit flaps and make it work. Whereas with video games, you usually have no idea what the finished product looks like. And you're just kind of shooting in the dark, just hoping that it's the correct line in the correct place. For Final Fantasy 15, it was Business Division 1, and they did an amazing job of really honing in on the English adaptation and making sure that we had all the tools we need. Because in previous Final Fantasy, they didn't always have that. They didn't know what the ending was going to be, or they didn't know certain things within the world of the game. But we had the head writer, Dan Inoue, there for every single session. And it was just, it was amazing to be able to work on something from beginning to end like that with all the information there. It's usually not how it works in video games. Usually you just have a spreadsheet and you're just picking and choosing, figuring out where lines play hither and thither. Final Fantasy was really interesting in that regard.
You can ad-lib at all? Or?
Can't ad-lib when it's dubbed to Japanese, unfortunately. There was a couple of instances where we were able to have creative reign. We had, so in Japanese, Taka asks Noctis to pick up beans, and it's some line like, I don't like beans very much. But it didn't work. We had 2.3 seconds, and we just could not figure out something that would work. And so I just said, what if he just says beans? And that was it. That ended up working. So it happens every once in a while we're able to be creative like that, but because it has to be frame perfect to the Japanese, it can be tough to improvise, yeah.
So we're at AnimeNYC, which is a celebration of Japanese culture.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but do you have a personal connection or relationship to J culture, like the food, music, or entertainment, and if so, like specifically,
Absolutely. I visited Japan several times. I studied Japanese for a couple of years. Shout out to Slime Forest Adventure. It's a great learning tool. I've been playing Japanese video games since forever, and watching anime on Toonami back in the day, and yeah, it's been a big part of my life. Even in college, I took Japanese fiction film classes, so I read a lot of really good stuff. Natsume Sosuke and Kobo Abe and guys like that. It's really, I love the culture. I wanna go there again. Yeah.
Going back to the Square Enix projects, people who've worked on Kingdom Hearts have mentioned that the clients spend a lot of time talking in between your takes.
Yes.
Was there any advice or direction that particularly stood out to you, like playing Master of Masters and how eccentric he can be?
You just spend a lot of time in silence. They really don't let you in on what's going on behind the scenes on that one. You're pretty much alone in that booth. For Master of Masters, the only thing that made them consider things was there was a line where he imitates a boss-type character, and they were really concerned. They wanted to make sure that he was saying exactly the same joke in Japanese that he was in English, because it was some poke at salaryman culture that wouldn't necessarily translate to English well. I don't remember what that line is off the top of my head, but that was like 2 hours on that one line. And then we came back the next day to do it again.
Wow.
So yeah, they're very intense over there because it's Disney and Square, so a lot of people have a lot of thoughts, for sure.
All right. Going back into the world of anime, I wanted to ask about a personal favorite of mine, Anohana.
Yeah, I love that show.
Anohana is a very emotional journey, like about the past and how people change and grow up.
Mm-hmm.
How did you personally see Yukiatsu's story as being like part of it, and did you have any methods of preparing for the role?
So yeah, I watched the whole show beforehand, so it was I was able to see the undertones of Yukiatsu's character. I was definitely like Yukiatsu in high school. I was the overachiever type. Didn't do sports, but I did all the academic stuff, and I was pretty haughty about it, I would say. So yeah, I could relate to him in that respect for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you prepare, or rather, how do you protect your voice, for those screens and all those kind of things? I know over the years, repeatedly doing that's got to do some kind of damage. So do you have any rituals to protect that?
Yeah, I had my tonsils removed, which ended up being a really big thing. I didn't realize how much that was holding me back. But man, it's really painful when you're an adult. I was out for a good 10 days. I was just pain. That was rough. And then I ate a pineapple, which was really dumb. And then I found out that my dad also ate a pineapple and his tonsils were removed. So it runs in the family. That was really bad pain. Things to do to help. Try to find out if the session you're going for is vocally stressful, and then try to schedule that on a Friday. That's like the only thing you can really do is if you start out on a Monday where your voice is shredded and then get through a whole week of sessions, it's going to do a lot. It's going to compound the damage. But if you do it on a Friday and then you have the weekend off, then that's one way of sort of isolating the hard part.
Have you ever lost your voice?
All the time, yeah.
Oh, really?
All the time, yeah. It's just it is what the job is, and it's understandable. They need for video games. They need a lot of different instances of dying and getting on fire and stuff like that. It can be really rough. Yeah.
So I'm a huge One Punch Man fan.
Awesome.
And you provide the voice for
Mm-hmm.
who actually turned out to be one of my favorite characters in a show that's already filled to the brim with over the top
Yes.
and eccentric characters. Did you ever crack up during the recordings for his
Oh.
voice, just knowing the kind of situations he would get in?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I also watched One Punch Man before recording, and I gave an audition for Tori before they even asked for auditions. And like, hey, if you ever end up dubbing the show, I want to do it. And thankfully, they let me play him later on. I still had to audition for it, but that was really fun. For situations that I'll crack you up. One interesting thing about recording him, because he's not in it too much, was how similar, even in the Japanese, the same thing, that Pori Pori is to Deep Sea King vocally. And so it was me and Keith Silverstein, and they wanted to, I think they ended up having him change his voice a little bit because we sounded too similar. We're both big, manly guys with hearts on our chests. So it just, we had to tread that line a little bit. Yeah.
We were talking before about how hands-on and involved Japanese clients can be as far as video games go. Has there ever been a similar point recording any anime in LA where the Japanese side wants something very specific, or they want a particular delivery or line change?
Evangelion was very, very full of Japanese influence. Like that one, Gainax sent notes every week. We recorded some lines 30, 40 times just to get it right. They were very particular about pronunciations and translations and subtext and stuff like that. That was like, I've never seen anything like that. They weren't in the booth with us. Aniplex is pretty much the only studio that actually has people in the booth with us. Hiroe and Sawako come in and sit on sessions they did for Durarara or Blue Exorcist or Sword Art Online. They're always there to provide feedback. Anohana is not Netflix.
I believe it is, actually.
I'm sorry, it was not. It
wasn't before.
It wasn't before. Now it's Netflix. They weren't there. Patrick Seitz directed that one. That's right. But yeah, Hiroe and Sawako were not there. But yeah, and then anything else is pretty much hands-off for stuff like that. Studiopolis recordings like Boruto or Naruto, they're kind of a little more freer reign with what we do.
Is there a different mindset you get into when you do maybe more of an Anohana, a deeper melodrama that it's intense but not in the same way like something like a One Punch Man or a Fate series would be? Is there a separation in your mindset when you go into recording those two?
Genre is the responsibility of the director to make sure that they can see the overall picture and see if all the parts work. And as we as actors, all we can do is follow the direction and try to bring at least what we know to the one character that we play.
What was your first ever?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
What was your first ever voice acting audition like for a major show? And were you nervous or?
My first time, I didn't do shows first. I did a lot of video games. For Final Fantasy 15, that was nuts to work on the demo. And I was super nervous. And the writer guy, Dan Inoue, was like, "Oh, I saw your YouTube channel." And I had this YouTube channel of like 100 dumb videos. And he was like, it was very interesting to go see your history. And I was like, shit. And I deleted all of that night. They're gone. They're somewhere in some vault locked up. But yeah, so I was very scared about losing the part. And then I did lose the part. And after the demo came out, the feedback was that he sounded too much like Gladio. And I had to re-audition for the role of Noctis and thankfully got it. You don't always get those opportunities to re-audition for roles. Most of the time, game comes out and you just find out that you've been recast, your part's been cut, but Keith Farley went to bat for me, and for that I'm forever grateful.
Throughout your time in the industry, the prevalence of social has only gotten larger and the internet at large, and so I was kind of wondering, there's a more connectedness with your fans at events like this, like cons, but also like internet, like Twitter, like we see you tweeting memes and jokes all the time, which is really funny. But how's that? I assume it's positive, but how has that kind of affected your relationship with your audience and your fans and stuff like that?
How has it affected my relationship? I guess it is the relationship with my fans, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't know their thoughts. I guess. I don't know what.
guess the follow-up would be, yeah, you know what? Never mind.
I deleted Instagram off my phone today. I think I'm going to delete my account. I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of it. I never understood Instagram, but Twitter I really like because you can write a joke. But Instagram, I just don't get how you be funny on Instagram. I guess you do videos and stuff, which I've done a couple, but that one's really tough. And then TikTok never was anything, right? It seems like it's over. Yeah.
Use attention.
It's probably going to die soon.
Yeah.
Does fan criticism impact you creatively? Like when you go in the studio, like if you read some fan saying like, "Oh, you did a terrible job," does that affect you, or you know?
No, because I know I did a great job.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
I remember Sean from Dragon Ball was telling me even if he gets praised, he doesn't care. If he thinks something's bad, he just thinks.
Yeah, I like it when people praise me. That never gets old. But I guess usually when people are angry about something, it's usually because they don't know as much about the property or they have a very fixed view of the property, especially our adaptation guy is gone, but a lot of times with adaptations they get angry and why did you change that? And it's like I didn't do that. So it's normally what they're angry about. Yeah.
In terms of fan engagement, obviously you, Max, and Robbie have Lava.
Yes.
And you guys stream, and I've watched some clips of you guys like playing Persona 5 and the subway.
Yes.
Do you enjoy like the energy when you do your guys' live shows for that? Just
oh my god, yeah. Did you guys were you there last night?
Unfortunately not.
Why were you there?
I'm seeing you.
Please remove yourself from this room. Live show is really, really fun. That's the reason that we started Lava was because of the live show, to have something to do at cons other than a Q&A panel. So it's really fun to have an extracurricular activity, as it were, at these cons. So that's why we started. And then Twitch was just an accident. We just happened to be with Adam Crosdell, voice of Ignis, that one night, and we said, let's turn on the PS4's native streaming service. And we got him to see Ignis saying, I've come up with a new recipe. So that was, and then from then we just, we've been doing it every week. And now I've been doing solo streams too.
Does he cook naturally?
Does Adam cook?
Yes.
Don't know if Adam cooks. He's a vegetarian. I think he does. He must prepare his own food, yeah.
Okay. For me, just want to give a comic nod to the conversation.
Yes.
You voiced Etrigan / Jason Blood for Justice League Dark. I'm a huge fan, DC Comics and Marvel, and Matt Ryan might be my favorite portrayal of Constantine ever. What was it like doing the voice for a movie? For a comic book movie?
That was crazy. My uncle was a colorist for DC back in the day on Steel. He colored Steel. That was pretty cool to bring to work with Warner Brothers directly in DC. It was and it was nice of them to let me play both roles because they didn't have to. There's no reason to hire the same actor to play both, and they said, "No, we know you can do it." That was my first animated session of any time, so that was really cool. And the movie turned out great.
Oh yeah, did you get to meet Matt by chance?
Yes, at the premiere. He was really nice.
You mentioned before being, cut from a project. Has that ever happened to you for something that you went all the way through, spent hours, days, months, and
absolutely?
Found out? Which title?
For Fallout 4, I was a big character, and my characters removed from the game, and that was sad. So I'm a big Fallout fan. But hey, I got to be in Fallout 76, so it's all good. It was very. It's sad, but it was nice. They still credited me in it, which they didn't have to do. There have been a few other instances, not as notable as that, but it. At the Fallout cast party, I actually talked with Matt King and Matt Mercer, who both were in a conversation, and they told me their stories being recast. Matt Yang King was the villain in Far Cry 4, and then was just recast. And so for him, that was crushing. But then you realize all the other successes that he's had happens. It's kind of a goes around, comes around sort of thing.
Still get paid though, right?
Still got paid, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And because we started a conversation about being the best anime mom, what was it like to play your own dad and be the beginning? You played your own character and you also played his father.
I feel like I've also done that a couple other times too. When have I also played my own dad? Heath Flick and Keith Flick, the most awkward names of all time. That was really fun. Be the Beginning was, I really enjoyed it. That one, the client was in the booth for every session. And Maki, she was very, very knowledgeable, but she wouldn't give us all that knowledge because she wanted to keep everything a mystery. So it was fun. Yeah, it was really fun.
So on that matter, how interesting is it knowing that, like, because you get a lot of, like, younger sounding people sometimes, but I've also noticed you get cast, at least in anime, as a lot of older men.
Yeah,
like older dudes, like 50s, gruffer, wiser in their age. How interesting is that to feel like that is a in-demand skill that is like, oh, I'm like 20, 30 something and people want me characters in 50s, 60s.
It's cool. It really helps you get cast because usually there's only one lead who's always young, and so but then there's a lot more jobs of the people who he's fighting or his father figure, things like that. So I ended up being in a lot of shows that I otherwise would not have been in because of that. Yeah.
All right, I'll wrap it up. So as a personal preference, do you like to play more heroic characters or more sinister characters? Which one just really gets you going in the role?
Sinister definitely usually more likely to have an accent, which is fun. But you usually don't see their journey. It's the hero who changes along the journey, so it's different, two different things. So it depends on the day.
Is Noctis your favorite character ever drawn?
For sure. Noctis and Roy also means a lot too, because I played him when I was a kid. It's a big deal to be someone who you've always wanted to be. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.